He had everything money could buy, but there was something that no fortune could fill. Tom was a cold, distant, and emotionally empty millionaire, until an unexpected encounter turned his life upside down. When Anna, a spontaneous woman full of life, crosses his path, Tom experiences for the first time something he thought impossible: feeling. But is he ready to abandon his emotional security and accept a true, deep, and overwhelming emotion? What happens when a man who has never felt anything realizes that he finally has everything to lose? Tom was the kind of man admired by many, envied by many. His days began early, even before the sun rose, and followed a relentless routine. At 36, he had already achieved enough success and wealth to live 10 lives in comfort. However, as he watched the dark horizon from his office window, he felt only the immense emptiness that his money couldn't fill. Each morning was the same as the last. Tom put on his perfectly tailored suit, ran his fingers through his carefully combed dark hair, and analyzed his impeccable appearance in the mirror with the indifferent gaze of someone who no longer felt proud of anything he had achieved. His coffee was bitter, just like his personal achievements, and the silence in his house was broken only by the faint sound of his footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. Tom commanded dozens of people every day. His voice was firm, his decisions precise, and he never hesitated in the face of obstacles. To the outside world, he was the ultimate example of professional success and efficiency. But inside, there was no emotion at all. He had long ago learned to shut out any feelings that might cloud his judgment, resulting in a cold and unaffectionate life. He had no real friends, only contacts, partners, and subordinates who nodded in respect and agreement. Even his family had become a mere monthly commitment, a social obligation that he maintained out of habit and formality. Conversations were superficial, and he often didn't even bother to feign genuine interest in the news they heard. His parents didn't really know him, because Tom had long since become emotionally unreachable, protected by an invisible barrier that no one seemed able to overcome. There were nights when he stayed up late, gazing at the ceiling of his spacious bedroom, wondering what it would be like to feel something real again. He tried to remember what it was like to smile spontaneously or be moved by a song, a movie, or even a simple casual conversation. No matter how hard he searched for those memories, they had long since disappeared, giving way to a silent, disturbing emptiness. Tom knew that many people would do anything to live the way he did. He had luxury cars, tailor-made clothes, and access to everything one could want materially, but there was no genuine joy, only the superficial satisfaction of meeting financial targets or achieving business records. Each new milestone reached in his career, each acquisition of yet another company or yet another property, only seemed to widen the hole he felt in his chest, as if he were continually trying to fill an absence with material achievements. At the end of that day, as on so many others, Tom stood motionless for a moment in front of the large office window, watching the distant lights flicker in the darkness. For the first time in many years, a different question echoed in his mind. Would he ever feel anything again? The next morning, Tom got into his car, indifferent to the scenery rushing past the window. His driver, used to the strict silence, didn't even dare to make conversation, knowing his boss's reserved temperament. Tom stared at his cell phone, following financial graphs that meant nothing to him but cold numbers on a bright screen. After another day full of bureaucratic meetings, he left the building in the direction of the restaurant where he was scheduled to have dinner with potential investors. Nothing was new or exciting for Tom. All those people wanted something from him, and he knew exactly how to control each situation, maintaining a perfectly neutral expression as he signed million-dollar contracts without showing any enthusiasm or satisfaction. But that night, as he entered the sophisticated restaurant, something unusual happened. As he walked absent-mindedly towards his table, his shoulder gently bumped into someone. He turned around slowly, ready for a formal, nonchalant apology. But the words died on his lips when his eyes met Anna's. She smiled immediately, warmly and with a smile. She smiled immediately, warmly and spontaneously. Anna had shiny brown hair that fell softly over her shoulders, eyes full of life and a genuine smile, completely different from the people Tom was used to dealing with. Her presence radiated a contagious energy that he had never experienced before. "Sorry, it was my fault," she said gently, tucking a lock of hair behind her ear naturally. Her voice was melodious and calm, making Tom feel strangely at ease within seconds. He realized he'd been going on too long without answering and sniffled, regaining control. "Don't worry, it was my mistake," he replied in his usual tone, but something else fluttered in his chest. There was a strange discomfort and an almost immediate curiosity about this unknown woman. For a brief moment, he wanted to prolong the conversation, something he had never wanted to do before. Anna seemed to notice Tom's hesitation as she tilted her head slightly, looking at him with a friendly but intense interest. "Are you all right?" she asked, keeping a slight smile on her face. Tom felt suddenly exposed, vulnerable. No one had ever asked him that question with such sincerity. Accustomed to the superficialities of social relationships, he didn't know exactly how to react to such frankness. "Yes, everything's fine," he replied quickly, trying to regain his usual coolness. Anna smiled again, in no hurry at all. "That's nice. I hope you have a great evening," she said, waving goodbye and walking slowly to her table, where two friends were waiting for her. Tom stood still, watching as Anna walked away. He felt intrigued, and for the first time in many years, genuinely curious. This woman had touched him in an unexpected and completely strange way. Throughout the business dinner, his eyes kept discreetly searching for the table where she was, and he found himself restless, something he hadn't felt for a long time. As he left the restaurant, alone again in the car, Tom noticed something different. His heart was beating at an unusual pace, fast and vibrant. He took a deep breath, trying to shake off the strange sensation that Anna had caused. As much as he tried to rationalize it, it was impossible to deny that after that brief encounter, he was finally feeling something again. In the days following his unexpected encounter with Anna, Tom tried hard to forget the unusual sensation that had invaded his mind and heart. He resumed his rigorous routine, convincing himself that it had only been a brief moment of distraction. However, no matter how hard he tried to concentrate on reports, meetings, and financial decisions, the image of Anna's warm smile kept returning, insistent and disturbing. During a particularly important meeting that week, he found himself distracted, staring into the void, while one of his executives gave a detailed presentation. It was unheard of for Tom to lose focus in this way. He quickly pulled himself together, angry with himself for allowing a virtually unknown woman to have such an influence on his thoughts. That evening, restless in his silent house, Tom walked slowly around the living room, looking for something to distract his mind. He tried watching television, reading financial reports, and even calling some professional contacts, but nothing worked. His heart seemed to insist on remembering the softness of Anna's gaze, the gentle warmth that emanated from her, so in contrast to everything else in his life. Annoyed at his own weakness, he picked up his cell phone and scrolled through the address book, thinking of calling a woman he had dated before, something casual as he usually did to distract himself. But he gave up right away, realizing that none of them caused him the slightest emotional reaction. He didn't want to feign interest or waste time on empty, superficial conversations. Frustrated, Tom recognized something he had long denied to himself. Anna had really touched him in a profound way, and he couldn't understand or accept that vulnerability. For years, he had prided himself on having absolute control over his emotions, something that now completely eluded him. Determined to forget the episode and reassert his emotional control, Tom chose to move on without thinking about her. However, a few days later, on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, fate seemed determined to challenge him again. Walking casually into a cafe near his office, Tom spotted Anna sitting at a table at the back, absent-mindedly reading a book while sipping a coffee. For a moment he considered simply leaving discreetly, but before he could do so, Anna looked up and recognized him. She waved her hand gently, inviting him in with a sincere smile. Tom, against all his reservations, walked over to her with a slight nod of greeting. He sat down in front of her with a rigid posture, struggling not to show the emotional discomfort he felt at being so close to her again. "I didn't think I'd meet you again so soon," said Anna in a friendly, relaxed voice. "Neither did I," Tom replied briefly, trying to maintain his usual coolness, although he felt his heart racing against his will. Anna leaned forward slightly, studying him with interest. "You know, you strike me as someone who's hard to decipher," she commented good-naturedly, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I bet a lot of people think so too." Tom looked away, annoyed by her sharp comment, but deep down, he knew Anna was right. He took a deep breath, finding himself at a loss for an answer in the face of the woman's disarming sincerity. Without fully realizing what was happening, Tom felt his barriers slowly begin to crumble, unable to deny that Anna had indeed penetrated his impenetrable emotional armor. The meeting in the cafe marked the beginning of something Tom had never foreseen, a real and inevitable rapprochement with Anna. Fate seemed determined to bring them together. For a few days after that second meeting, they were both invited to the same charity event. Tom, used to avoiding such social occasions, found himself unexpectedly interested this time, knowing that she would be there. When he arrived at the event hall, elegantly decorated and full of important guests, Tom immediately searched for Anna with his eyes, feeling a slight tightening in his chest when he spotted her in the crowd. She was wearing an elegant blue dress that highlighted her natural glow even more. Noticing his presence, Anna gave him a warm smile and gestured for him to come closer. Unable to resist, Tom crossed the hall to her. As he approached, he felt a slight anxiety that he hadn't recognized in himself for many years. With a polite nod, he greeted her, trying to maintain his usual posture of absolute emotional control. Anna didn't seem intimidated by Tom's initial coldness. On the contrary, she seemed to understand his resistance perfectly, treating him with lightness and good humor, conducting the conversation with such skill that within a few minutes, Tom already felt more comfortable at her side than he had imagined possible. As the evening progressed, Anna's presence made Tom feel strangely at ease, something completely new and surprising. She talked passionately about everything: books, art, small everyday details that he had always ignored in his busy life. At one point during the conversation, Tom found himself smiling genuinely, taken aback by the spontaneous feeling Anna had managed to arouse in him. Noticing his own unexpected reaction, Tom quickly looked away, trying to hide his vulnerability. Anna noticed his defensive attitude, but reacted with an understanding smile, gently staying by his side, respecting his pace and his limits. For Tom, that gesture meant more than words could ever say. Over the course of the evening, as they chatted animatedly, Tom completely forgot about the constant pressure of his professional life and social expectations. For the first time in years, he felt free, light, almost as if he could breathe deeply again. Next to her, the world seemed to take on colors that hadn't existed before. When the event was finally over, Tom naturally offered to take her home, something totally unexpected for him. Anna accepted naturally, thanking him for the kind gesture without realizing how important that little moment was for him. On the way back, the silence between them was comfortable and peaceful. Tom felt strangely comfortable next to her, realizing that he didn't need to fill that space with empty conversations or unnecessary explanations. Her presence was enough for him to feel something he had previously thought impossible. As he pulled up in front of her house, Tom felt that tightness in his chest again, but this time accompanied by unexpected happiness. Anna turned to him, smiling softly. "Thank you for an incredible evening, Tom. I hope to see you again soon." He stared at her for a moment, clearly realizing that she meant what she said, without any games or superficialities. Before he could control his impulse, he replied with a sincerity that even he found strange. "I'd love to, too." As he watched her slowly walk away, Tom realized that something had indeed changed inside him. Anna had managed to break through his emotional barrier, and in that instant, he clearly realized that he no longer wanted to go back to the way things were before. Over the next few days, Tom found himself increasingly wrapped up in thoughts of Anna. He was facing a real internal crisis, trying to understand the depth and extent of the feelings she had aroused in him. In his mind, her image appeared constantly, accompanied by sensations as intense as they were unfamiliar, which left him completely bewildered. In the office, Tom could no longer completely hide his unease. Some people nearby began to notice small changes in his posture. Sometimes he was seen looking distractedly out of the window, as if searching for an answer on the distant horizon. No one dared question his behavior, but the strangeness caused by this new version of the man, who was always so controlled, was evident to everyone. One evening at home, Tom decided to face his emotions directly, something he had never tried before. Sitting alone in his spacious living room, he tried to rationalize what was happening. He picked up a blank piece of paper and began to write her name over and over again, without realizing that he was doing it almost on impulse. When he realized what he was doing, he felt ridiculous, but still realized that he couldn't just ignore those feelings. Tom thought of Anna again, remembering her light smile, her soft voice, and the conversations they had had during that unforgettable evening. Each memory seemed to bring a new meaning, more intense and profound than he could have imagined. His rational mind tried to convince him that it was all just a passing illusion, but his heart insisted on contradicting this cold, pragmatic logic. Determined to clarify his feelings, Tom decided to look for Anna again. This time, not by chance or fortuitous coincidence, but by his own conscious and deliberate choice. He called her that same evening, his heart racing when he heard her voice on the other end of the line, happy and surprised by his unexpected call. They arranged to meet the next day, and Tom spent the next few hours overwhelmed by anxiety, a feeling that was completely foreign to him. He constantly wondered what he would say or how he would act when he saw her again. For the first time in many years, he had absolutely no control over the situation, something that left him feeling both frightened and fascinated. The next time they met, Anna seemed to notice the tension that gripped Tom. She smiled gently and, in her usual quiet way, helped him to relax. Without forcing anything, Anna created a comfortable atmosphere, allowing him to explore his own feelings without pressure or judgment. "You look worried, Tom. Do you want to talk about what's going on?" asked Anna gently, looking deeply into his eyes. Tom sighed deeply, admitting his insecurity openly for the first time. "I'm confused. I've never felt like this before, and I don't know exactly what to make of it." Anna smiled understandingly, reaching across the table to gently touch his hand. "It's okay to feel this way. Sometimes we need to accept what we can't immediately understand." Tom felt the soft warmth of her hand in his, and something inside him seemed to finally accept that it was okay to let his defenses down, at least a little. At that moment, he understood that Anna was there not just as someone who had provoked his feelings, but as someone capable of helping him to accept and understand them fully. At the end of that conversation, Tom left with the certainty that he had begun a process of irreversible transformation within himself. For the first time, he accepted that it was possible to live with emotion, and that now seemed to be the only thing that really mattered. Despite all the understanding and affection Anna had shown him, Tom woke up the next day with a deep sense of insecurity. The idea of being emotionally dependent on someone scared him terribly, bringing up old fears that he had thought he had put behind him a long time ago. His mind began to fight fiercely against the vulnerability he had begun to feel, demanding that he urgently regain the control that had always defined his life. That whole day, Tom tried to keep his distance, obsessively immersing himself in his work as a way of protecting himself from the growing anxiety. He consciously avoided replying to Anna's delicate messages, which arrived punctually, expressing genuine concern and affection. The more Anna showed affection, the more Tom retreated, convincing himself that the whole thing was a threat to the stable life he had led so far. With every hour that passed, Tom once again built up the emotional wall that Anna had so patiently torn down. As he regained his former coldness, he mentally justified that this was how he should be, safe, distant, without allowing himself to feel deeply for anyone. But no matter how hard he tried to believe it, something inside him no longer fit. The emptiness that had once seemed familiar and comfortable had now become suffocating and painful. At the end of that difficult week, Anna clearly noticed the sudden change in Tom. When they met again for a brief dinner, she immediately felt the cold, uncomfortable detachment. Tom was visibly withdrawn, responding with short, evasive sentences. Anna stared at him with a sad but firm expression, finally deciding to confront him directly. "What's going on, Tom?" she asked softly, with an honesty that cut deep into his heart. "You're different. You're moving away from me." Tom looked away, feeling the crushing weight of that question. He took a deep breath, trying to maintain his usual composure, even though he knew his words would be painful. "I think we'd better give it some time. Maybe I'm not ready for all this right now. I'm sorry, Anna." Anna remained silent for a moment, taking in the unexpected rejection. Her eyes shone with a deep sadness, but she didn't try to convince him to stay. With impressive maturity, she replied softly, "I understand. I hope you find out what you really want, Tom. I'll be here if you need me." As he watched her get up and leave the restaurant, Tom felt a sharp pain in his chest. Clearly,